You know that feeling when you're trying to listen to what someone's saying, or you're trying to concentrate on a task at work? Maybe you're watching Netflix and trying to chill in the evening, but you cannot concentrate because you are thinking about food and what you're going to eat next. And maybe, like me, you're just a foodie, you love your food, but at the same time, you just wish you could be one of these people that didn't think about food that much. Whether you're dieting or not, you've always got this food noise in the background. You are always hungry. In fact, you might have even thought about using GLP-1s because your life would be so much easier if you just didn't always think about food. Well, you're in luck because I have made this video for you. If you have not met me before, my name is Laura and I am a nutritionist and personal trainer. And over the last 15 years, I have worked with thousands of women to help them not only transform their bodies, but also get to a place where food just feels peaceful. I also really struggled personally with this. I am someone that has just really been into food her whole life. I enjoy cooking, I enjoy eating out, I especially enjoy cake. Everything about food I love. But yet, for a lot of my life, I've had this real love-hate relationship with food. And I remember at one point in time just wishing I could be one of those people that just didn't care about food. This got especially heightened when back in 2019 I stepped away from bodybuilding. I knew couldn't keep spending every single day thinking about food. So I tried all of the general advice. I made sure I came out of a calorie deficit. I regained body fat. I tried intuitive eating and giving myself unconditional permission to eat. But honestly, none of it seemed to help. I just found myself in a situation where I'd gained weight and I was thinking about food more than I had before I tried any of those things. But the deeper I've gone into my career, the more I've realized that hunger is just more complex than you're not eating enough, because you might feel hunger whether you're in a period of restriction or not. There are a ton of science-backed reasons why your brain and your body send you hunger signals even if you're technically eating enough calories. So in this video, I'm going to answer the question, what can I do to help my constant hunger? And even if you're in a calorie deficit now and you expect to feel a bit of hunger, implementing some of these things and some of these changes should make fat loss a smoother ride for you. So let's get stuck into it. So there are two hormones that are primarily responsible for hunger. One of them is called ghrelin, and it is released to signal to your body that it is time to eat. And this will be released at various points throughout the day. I like to think of ghrelin like a little gremlin sat on my shoulder going, woo, it's time to eat now. The other hormone that impacts hunger is called leptin, and leptin is produced in your fat cells and it sends signals to the brain to say, hey, we're good, we're full, we don't need to eat anymore. As you lose body fat, the amount of leptin that you have reduces accordingly. And if leptin reduces, obviously you're getting less of those signals going to your brain to say, we are done with eating. But in some cases, you can actually be overweight and still feel the response of low leptin levels. And it's not because you're not producing enough leptin, it's because your brain stops responding to it properly. And this is called leptin resistance. And it is one of the things that GLP-1s correct, which is why so many people, when using GLP-1s, experience reduced food noise. But before you hop on GLP-1s and think they are the magic solution to your hunger, I would make sure you're doing the other things in this video first, because unless you're planning on staying on GLP-1s for life, you're going to need to get on top of this stuff at some point. So the next thing I'm going to talk about is what you actually eat, because that has a huge impact on how hungry you feel. Probably already know that protein is important. You probably already know to add volume to your meals. Yet time after time, I get food diaries from women that have worked with other coaches, and they've been focused on counting calories for so long that their fundamental eating habits have all become a bit out of whack. More and more people in the fitness space are now finally talking about fiber with the same level of importance as protein, and it's for very good reason, because fiber is genuinely the unsung hero of feeling full and satisfied. Explained simply, fiber cannot be broken down and digested by your body in the same way. It slows digestion and the rate that foods enter your system. This is really important because it stabilizes blood sugar, and although we know when it comes to managing managing your weight, it's all about calories in versus calories out, it becomes a lot easier to manage your weight if your blood sugar isn't on a constant roller coaster. But the mistake I see a lot of women make is that they think fiber is just fruits and vegetables. There is a lot of fiber within fruits and vegetables, but fiber is found primarily in good quality carbohydrates, things like wholemeal seeded bread, brown rice, wholemeal pasta, beans, pulses, lentils, chickpeas, that kind of stuff. And there's always a really big absence of those in people's diet. In fact, what I very often see in people that have been in fitness for a long time's diets is a lot of protein, a lot of vegetables, but within their meals themselves, there's none of these other things that are going to give them enough fiber. So a really good starting point with this, and this is something that I get clients to count when they're wanting to increase their fiber intake, is think 5 a day in terms of your fruit and veg, and a portion of fruit and vegetables is about 80 grams, and 2 different whole grain bean or pulse servings. So things like I spoke about, your beans, your lentils, your chickpeas, your whole grain breads, but even things like if you're going for a cereal, go for a whole grain variety, things like Weetabix, oats, shredded wheat, bran flakes. Those are all really great sources of fiber. But the other thing I often see in people's diets that has a really big impact on fullness is a lot of the meals that people are eating aren't nutritionally balanced. Things like a bit of fruit on its own, a little cereal bar, a little 100-calorie snack bar, because that's great for a deficit. It keeps the calories down. Or maybe they've got some weird rules around fat. So every product that they eat ever is low fat. You know, heaven forbid they ever stray into a full fat Greek yogurt. It's always got to be the 0% stuff. And, you know, I won't have the egg yolk. I'll just stick to the egg whites because that's where all of the protein is. And there's nothing wrong with that. But longer term, if you continue to eat on that way, because your meals aren't balanced, even on more calories, your body is still going to be signaling to your brain to eat because it's not getting all of the nutrients that it needs. And there are certain vitamins like vitamin A, vitamin D, vitamin E, and vitamin K that all provide vital roles within the body, but they can only be absorbed by your body when fat is present in your diet. They need fat to be there in order for them to do their thing. So again, if your fat intake is too low, your body might be signaling you to eat more food, even if you're eating enough calories, because as far as it's concerned, it's actually malnourished. And as you get older, this is something that you will feel the impact of more, simply because older bodies need a little bit more care than younger ones do to feel as good because they've been around for a longer time. So yes, if you're not eating enough protein, that is important. But actually for a lot of women, the baseline recommendation given out by a lot of fitness coaches, which is take your body weight in kilograms and multiply it by 1.6 to 2.2, might actually give you a protein intake that's a bit too high, particularly if you're not holding that much muscle mass and your body composition is actually made up of more body fat. And by consuming more protein than you need to, we are taking away the other nutrients. What about if you're listening to this thinking, well, I eat enough calories and I eat healthily. I do those things that you're telling me, but I still don't ever feel quite satisfied. It might be for this next reason, which is a psychological one. And that is that you are not mentally satisfied from the foods that you are eating. And there's actually a really interesting study that shows this clearly. So 2 groups of people were both given the same milkshake. However, one group was told that this is a diet, low-calorie, healthy milkshake, and the other group were told that this is an indulgent, high-calorie milkshake. Exactly the same milkshake, they were just told different things about it. The group that were given the indulgent milkshake reported that they felt fuller for longer, and the healthy group reported that they got hungrier sooner. And what's really interesting is actually their hunger hormone response differed too between these 2 groups. So what that tells us is hunger isn't just a physiological response to food. It can also be due to our psychological perception of food. And that's why sometimes you can end up clawing your way through the cupboards. Like you might have done it, right? Where you're like, oh, I'm craving some chocolate. Okay, I'm going to make myself this high protein, low calorie mug brownie cake. Okay, well that didn't do it. So I'll go back, I'll have a few bits of fruit. And you just keep going through all of these different things only to then eat the chocolate bar that you were craving anyway. So it might be worth just recognizing that actually the best and most sustainable nutrition plan for you isn't the one with the nutritionally balanced meals and X amount of calories all of the time, but actually it's a way of eating that your brain is satisfied by too. The next psychological reason, and I'm only going to touch on it in this video, but it is a subject that as an ex-binge eater is so dear to my heart, and it's really something that I think impacts a lot of people, and that is emotional eating. We don't just use food as fuel, we also use food to help regulate our emotions when we're stressed, when we're bored, when we're happy. So often people talk about emotional eating like it's, you know, you're depressed, crying into a tub of ice cream in front of the TV for comfort, but actually sometimes excitement or joy can cause urges to eat. And I would actually say that 50% of what I do with women is around sorting out their actual nutrition, but the other half of it is about helping them manage their lives, manage their stress levels, manage their emotions, and particularly I think once you get beyond the age of 40 and you start heading towards perimenopause, which we know can throw our hormones and our emotions and just not feeling like ourselves, it can throw everything out of whack. Like you can feel like you've got a really good handle on yourself and then all of a sudden not recognize yourself anymore. And that's where I think it's so important to recognize the role that food is playing in your life when it comes to emotions. And I can do a whole other video on the techniques I use with clients to help with emotional eating. So if that would be helpful, just let me know, drop it in the comments and I will get that done. I think at this point it is also worth us touching on stress and sleep, because an increase in the stress hormone cortisol can increase appetite, and a bad night's sleep can also increase ghrelin, that hunger hormone that I spoke about, and leptin, the fullness hormone, goes down. So what that can manifest as after a bad night's sleep is a drive to eat more food, and our body's fastest way to get energy into the system is from sugary carbs. So that's why you might find after a bad night's sleep you start to crave more sugar. Your body is literally asking for more fuel to help it get through the day. Now, I think sometimes just understanding, okay, my sleep was poor last night, or it's a bit poor in general at the moment, I'm under a lot of stress with work, my other half keeps snoring his head off, whatever that reason is, I'm gonna be a bit hungrier today, I'm gonna have a few more cravings today, can actually either make it easier to show yourself a bit more compassion and allow yourself a bit more food, or actually make peace with the fact that that's how you feel that day and think of other ways to self-soothe without turning to food. But I think just having that awareness can really help you just be a bit nicer to yourself. The other thing that can happen after a bad night's sleep is we start to rely more on caffeine. You know, you might need a few more coffees or an energy drink just to get through the morning. And what caffeine does is it blunts hunger. So often women think that they get hungrier in the afternoon or in the evening, and it's simply because actually they haven't eaten enough food during the morning because they have been chugging back the teas and coffees and not felt their hunger due to that kind of false energy boost that caffeine gives us. And caffeine has a half-life of around about 4 to 6 hours. What that means is it takes about 4 to 6 hours for half of that amount to leave your system. And when it does, your hunger can hit you like a smack in the face. So it might not actually be a 2 p.m. energy crash or sugar craving. It might just be, actually, I've not realized how hungry I am till now because I've had a decent dose of caffeine in my system. Caffeine can be a great strategy when you're trying to keep calories lower, but actually longer term, if you are somebody that's always feeling hungry, it might just be that you're not eating enough food early in the day. Another reason you might always be feeling hungry, your body fat levels might simply be too low. We are under, as women, an enormous amount of pressure, more so than ever, to adhere to unrealistic beauty standards set to us by photoshopped images, social media, people churning out shoots of them at a body composition they can't sustain year round. And that might be screwing with your perception of what a normal, healthy body fat level for a female looks like in reality. And even things like people having muscle mass, fake boobs, they can give the illusion that a person looks healthy when actually their body fat levels are an amount that isn't. Like, for example, me in this photo shoot. This is not a body fat level that I can or should sustain year round, because it was just far too low for me. Across my years of dieting, I have made a personal observation that every time my scale weight drops below a certain number, my hunger skyrockets and it goes to a place that is not sustainable for me to live with. I do not feel good. I'm always thinking about my next meal, and I find that when I am eating, I get more of what I call Pringle syndrome. Like once I start eating, I can't stop. But over time, my body has recompositioned, aka I have more muscle mass and less body fat, so I look leaner at the same scale weight. So maintaining it feels a damn sight easier, and I have far less hunger than I used to. But getting me to this point has taken years, so do not be disheartened if you have got to a leaner, lighter weight than you ever have for the first time, and it feels like you're never going to be able to maintain it. The main thing I want you to remember here is that if you are somebody that's always thinking about food, or you are always hungry, there's not something wrong with you. You don't have crap willpower, and you're not undisciplined, and you're not greedy. And these are all thoughts that I have told myself at one point in time. So I really want you to know that that is not the case here. You probably just have a body and brain that are trying to tell you something. And that is why when I coach women, I am looking at factors that go beyond just how many calories are you eating and what does your training plan look like, because it is super important to look outside of those things and build a holistic picture, which includes all of their lifestyle factors, their current body type, and also their past relationship and experiences with food. There was a reason I took a 6-year hiatus on this YouTube channel, and it's because I was figuring a lot of these things out for myself. So if you are always hungry, I want you to remember this: constant hunger, it's information, and once you understand and get to grips with what your body is asking for, the time you spend thinking about food will naturally decline, and I promise you everything starts to feel a lot simpler. And if that sounds like a place you want to get to, make sure you hit that little subscribe button, because I am going to dive deeper into some of these topics to help you get to that place where you can look in the mirror and love what you see, but you're also not feeling like you're an absolute slave to your diet and the scales to get there.